Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, we had 130 Channel migrants who had been selected as suitable to be flown to Rwanda for not just processing, but if found to be legitimate asylum seekers, for resettlement in Rwanda. This, admittedly, a controversial policy, although one also very popular with British voters. We're now down, after various legal challenges over the last few days and overnight, to 7. Likely to fall even further, with I think 3 more legal challenges expected this morning before the flight is due to take off. Do you think this flight is ever going to go with anyone on it?
I don't know. I certainly hope not. I mean, we have brought a legal challenge which is ongoing with Care for Calais and the Public and Commercial Services Union regarding the lawfulness of the policy as a whole. We'll have a full legal hearing of that probably in July. But we brought an urgent injunction on Friday, which was appealed yesterday, to try to stop this flight taking place. Unfortunately, that injunction wasn't granted. We welcome the fact that the number of removal directions have been coming down, as you say, to now just 7 or 8, but frankly, one person going today to Rwanda is one too many. The policy needs to be fully tested lawfully before anyone is removed. That's what we believe.
You say fully tested lawfully. I mean, it was tested in the High Court on Friday, and Justice Singh ruled that actually it was perfectly reasonable for this policy to go ahead.
With respect, no. Justice Singh led the appeal yesterday, but what has been heard so far was just our request for interim relief that nobody go on this flight tomorrow, pending the further legal decision. But I mean, our strong belief remains this is an unlawful policy. We don't think anyone should be being punished for seeking asylum, which is what this policy would be doing. We think every asylum claim to the UK should be heard fully and fairly in the UK. And secondly, we dispute fundamentally the government's claim that Rwanda is a safe third country to which people can be removed.
You say punished for seeking asylum. I mean, in what way are people being punished? I mean, you've seen some of the accommodation people are going to be offered in Rwanda. We've seen it on TV footage. It looks perfectly pleasant. It looks nicer than some of the hotels I've stayed in my life.
Well, I mean, firstly, if it isn't a punishment, I'm not sure how that fits with the government's aim of deterrence. But secondly, and more broadly, I mean, the situation is that the policy will be applied to usually people who've arrived quite recently in the UK, who've made desperate journeys already from their country of origin to the UK, who've made an asylum application here expecting to be safe, expecting quite reasonably to be safe while that is considered. Instead, they will be removed to Rwanda, a country that they haven't been before.
Well, they haven't been to Britain before either.
But I think the point is then our concern is about what is going to happen next. It's very important to note this isn't any form of outsourcing. It's not a situation where if they are recognised as a refugee by Rwanda, they will eventually have a route back to the UK. There will be no route back to the UK anyway. I think it's also really important to say that the Rwandan asylum system does not seem fit for purpose. And very important.
I mean, to be fair, neither is ours. I mean, you say desperate journeys. The point at which you pay a people smuggler thousands of pounds on the beaches outside Calais to get on a rickety boat across the Channel to Britain, you're not desperate. You're already in a safe country. I know you're not legally required under international agreements to claim asylum in France or in Spain or Italy or Germany or any of the other countries they pass through to get to that point. But you're by no means desperate at that point, are you?
I don't agree with respect, Julie. I don't think any of us would get onto a makeshift dinghy and try and cross the Channel.
I think they're insane. I think the people who take their small children on it are criminal.
I think they're in desperate situations.
How are you desperate if you're in France? I understand you're desperate if you're in Syria, being bombed by your own president. I understand you're desperate if you're being persecuted in Iran or Iraq. I get that. How are you desperate at the point when you are living in France?
I think, it's very important to keep focusing on the individuals and the situations that people go through.
So explain, how is anybody desperate while they're living in France for their life?
People have a variety of reasons and contexts that are happening for them at that particular point. Many people, for example, may have not been able to access the asylum system in France. There are issues with that system. Many people crossing the Channel have family links in the UK.
So what?
They're desperate to re-establish.
So what? You don't have. I mean, seriously, you can be married to someone in this country, but if you don't earn enough, even if you're from America or Canada, you can't come and live in this country. We don't have a rule where you have families. I think I've got friends and family in America. I can't just go and live and work there or claim asylum there.
As you said, Julia, there's also no rule saying that you must claim asylum in the first state country.
I said there's no rule. I didn't dispute that. This is my point, James. No, they're allowed to do it. What I'm disputing is you're saying at the point at which someone gets on a boat paying a people smuggler thousands of pounds, wherever they got that from, by the way, usually working for those people. I mean, it's a very long route. It takes months, even years for them to get to that point. At the point where you are in France, you're not desperate. So why are we calling these people desperate asylum seekers?
I think there are key points that everyone should agree on. Firstly, no one wants people to be having to make desperate, dangerous journeys across the Channel. It absolutely benefits no one.
So deterring that is a good thing.
And nobody wants people smugglers, apart from the smugglers themselves, obviously. No one wants people smugglers to be benefiting from human misery. But the answer to that isn't to set up an unlawful scheme that sends people on to an unsafe third country.
Well, so far the ruling is that it's not unlawful. I know there are more challenges, but...
No, the ruling so far has been specifically related to the interim relief for today's flight only. It hasn't been any vindication at all of the policy as a whole. What we need to do is set up...
But the flight is lawful, so...
No. What we need to do is... Well, no, the judges have ruled, and we disagree with this, but what they said
Yes, you disagree with it. That doesn't mean it's unlawful.
No, Julia, with respect, what they've said is that they believe that if the policy is found unlawful next month in court, the people removed into Rwanda in the interim, mostly on today's flight, could be returned to the UK without having had real risk in the meantime.
So if the policy is found to be unlawful, I mean, this is the thing a lot of people get concerned about is people elect this government. Look, I've been as critical of this government when I think they get things wrong as anyone could possibly be. I mean, there's a reason why Boris Johnson doesn't come on my show and do interviews. Do you know what I mean? But the reality is, people voted for Brexit in 2016. They voted again in 2017. They voted in 2019 to elect a government with an 80-strong majority because they wanted some issues to happen. They want Brexit to happen. They also wanted, as a key part of that, to have control of our borders. People do not want, even the most liberal-minded people I know, don't think it's a good idea for tens of thousands of young men to rack up on our shores on rickety boats and claim asylum here. We don't know where they are, where they come from, who they are, and what their motives are here. And even if their motives are entirely good, do we still want those people to come here? We're a small, crowded island, and frankly, why are these people our problem?
Yeah,
That's what an awful lot of people think in this country. And yet, human rights lawyers and organisations like yours want to undermine a government policy that's a democratically elected government with a policy that's actually very popular.
I don't think polling really suggests that, to be honest. I think more people are opposed to it than they are supportive of it.
At your dinner parties, maybe, James.
Okay, it's an unlawful, unsafe, inhumane policy. What we're asking for is quite a non-controversial baseline, that those who make asylum applications to the UK should have those claims heard fully and fairly in the UK.
But you don't think any of those people should ever be deported, do you? The trouble is, the people on your side of the debate, you'll say it's just this particular aspect we're unhappy with. Actually, what it happens, you actually don't want anyone to be sent away. You don't want anyone not to get asylum here. Even if they're economic migrants, they should be allowed to stay here. I mean, basically, you'd have an open border, wouldn't you?
With respect, Julia, no, we haven't said any of those things. So someone having the right to make an asylum application doesn't mean that an application will eventually be necessarily accepted, and indeed many aren't. Although it's notable in terms of the large numbers of people who crossed last year, the number of asylum applications which were actually granted to the people who were recognised as genuine refugees rose to a high of over 30 years, for over 75%. But what we're saying is those claims should be heard fully and fairly on their own individual merits. That is not what will be happening under this policy.
James Wilson, it's really good to talk to you. No doubt we will talk again.